guest. We spent 30 minutes talking a lot about Amy's personal life in the build up to the game of soccer and how she got to where she is now. And we had some great side conversations on the women's game itself. And looking forward to some more of those conversations right now. So what we'll do, Amy. So we've kind of got to your part where you've come to the US now. You've obviously you've learnt your trade back home. You're playing trade. You've transitioned into coaching. You've seen the women's game grow, but there's still obviously areas where it can grow more. But my next question for you is: what brought you to the US specifically? I know. So just very quickly on that, for those that don't know, Coach Amy actually worked for an organisation before Shelton and Yes Soccer. He worked for a few years in New Jersey for a program, and then I had to work my magic to seal a deal to get her into Shelton, which I know was people were very happy about. But if we start back to your US journey, what brought you out? And so not Shelton, but to the US when you went to New Jersey. What brought you out here in the first place, Amy?
To be honest, the only place I thought I could make a career out of coaching or soccer in general was the US, and I still have that opinion. Like, if the US wasn't there, I don't think I would be coaching. Like the things in place in the US for coaches and the growth of the game is kind of way ahead of the rest of the world. But I was the coordinator of the course I was doing, the coaching course, was suggesting it kind of throughout the year, and I was like, look into it. But finally, I kind of was just sick of them saying it to me. I was like, all right, look, I'll go out for a year, see how it is. But like straight away, first session, the enthusiasm of the kids and the level of the kids, and the facilities and everything. I was just kind of, and the fact that I could coach for a living was still kind of like, I'm like robbing these people, like, I'm getting paid to coach soccer. So kind of just fell in love with working and doing something you love every day in a country that, women's soccer is held so highly. I never kind of seen women's soccer respected as much as I have in America. Like, it's still kind of, not laughable here, but it's still a second thought, in Ireland, unfortunately, where in America soccer is, it's nearly a female game. The US women's national team is more popular than the men's national team, which is unheard of. So being in a country where you're doing something that's completely respected, just, I couldn't turn that down. So definitely the best decision I've made.
That's good. And obviously, again, you've gone from New Jersey and then ended up in the land of Connecticut, where you've been with us for a season now. And hopefully a few more seasons to come. And again, we won't talk too much about like your experience again in Connecticut. We want to focus a little bit more on yourself. So I know we spoke about it briefly about what you think you have as an asset, Amy, as a coach. But what's your all round? And we spoke about this with Coach Mark, and it can be a bit of an awkward question because I think it's like no one really has a philosophy. But what would be your core competencies or your philosophy that you, as a coach, your principles that you have that you will always stick to?
I think your philosophy is definitely something that changes.
It does.
You could read a book. Or you could read. You could watch a documentary on Guardiola 1 minute. And then Jurgen Klopp the next minute, and your philosophy changes. But from kind of reading into a lot of different coaches over the winter and stuff, and it's kind of what I've already been doing. But my philosophy will be to let the kids and the players lead themselves and answer their own questions and, let them solve the problems. Because there's no point in me, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, and the kids relying on me to lead them and motivate them, because I'm not always going to be there. They're not always going to have the motivation, so they have to find the answers themselves. And we know ourselves. If we discover something ourselves, we'll remember it.
Yeah.
Whereas if somebody tells us something, it's going to go in one ear and out the next.
Yeah.
So it's for me as a coach, I'll just kind of set the scene.
Yeah.
And players kind of discover and answer the questions themselves and ask the questions themselves. And it depends on the age group. My U10s, it's kind of like, I have to take a bit more of a leadership role, and I have to guide them a small bit more and drip feed, the questions and give them little bits of the answer. Where the U13 girls, like the two captains on the team, they do the pre-game team talk. Like, they have their little huddle, so they motivate themselves. And then in training, like the girls kind of, not that they give out to each other, but if they're not training at a certain standard, they'll tell each other that, but come on, this is not good enough. Mm-hmm. Again, because if I don't notice something, because coaches don't always notice, what's out in the field during a game or what the mood is during a practice session, at least the girls and themselves will know, and they can fix it. Because again, I'm not always going to be there, and whoever, if they have another coach down the line who does things differently, at least the girls will have the competency to kind of, figure out things themselves.
Yeah, I agree. I know you're, just from what I've seen, Amy, you're very good at that. Like you said, using that slightly guided discovery. I'm not even sure if that's a coaching term they use. It's probably changed as they change the terms every year in the coaching world. But that more guided approach, and obviously you adapt it slightly with the age group, obviously because your older team are older, a little bit more mature, so they know how to motivate each other. I guess so here's a question for you. It's finding that. Do you feel like with your older team, because they have that little bit more responsibility to motivate themselves, which I think is a great great responsibility to place on them, but do you also find because they're older, their emotions are a little bit higher, that you have to maybe, I guess, keep an eye on what's being said sometimes. Yeah. And this could be any team, any group of females or male players or whatever, like just in general.
Yeah, and I definitely, because the players aren't the only ones that are learning.
Of course.
Like, the coach is constantly learning too, and that's something I learned in the fall season. I probably didn't notice it, and it was a fault of mine, where in big games I was using language that suggested it was a big game, or suggested it. The team were very good, and that I didn't notice it, but the girls then felt more pressure on themselves, and then didn't perform because they were nervous. Or if we were playing in a South Central game, I was using language that I didn't notice, so the girls then got complacent, and then maybe didn't think much of of the other team, and then didn't perform. So again, I always really drill it into the girls that if you ever have a question or a problem, if you don't agree with something I did, tell me. So the girls came up and they told me, look, coach, we don't really like when, you tell us, you build us up, or, tell us that the other team isn't, is in last place. We like it when, you just don't tell us, really. So, because again, emotions were just going up and down. So that's definitely something I learned. And, I'll be bringing into next season.
It's funny because I think the older players, because obviously at a younger age, players don't study opposition teams. They don't. But and even at an older age, I'll choose high school for example. Not to say, I'm not saying high school players study the opposition team, but because they're older, they know. So Shelton High School, for example, again, they know that, for example, every time they play, I choose Cheshire High School, for example, they're always going to get a tough game. And that's just knowledge, but I think at a younger, and so they're able to figure that out themselves, but at a younger age, they may know that team from previous games and stuff. But it's fun. I think finding that balance of, because I think players need to know, I think it's good for them to know, look, sir, this we already know this team play this way from the way they last played. So we know the next time we play against them, we can set up like this to counteract their their long ball game or their high press, whatever. So I think there's a certain elements of them knowing about the opposition teams that are important. But again, it's how they deal with that emotionally, and this is girls and boys, how they deal with it emotionally to not fear the opposition or on the other side get too confident that this is going to be an easy game. So I think as players ourselves, we've all been through that. I know I have. I've looked, when I was coming up through the game, I'd look at if I was playing as a left winger, I'd look at the right sided defender and I think, he looks good. And then in my head would go already, even though they might not be good. Or the flip side of it, he doesn't look very good. I'm going to get the better of him, and stuff like that. And I think it's psychologically, there's so much that goes through a player's head and a coach's head, and it's something that I think can impact players at any level, even into the pro game, and again, any level, any age, and it affects everyone differently. On the flip side, you're going to get players that are very cool and calm under pressure. Who did we speak about in our last one, Joel? Perlo, who never looked to be fazed by anything. He just played a game and got on with it. Job done. And I think it's I think every player is going to react differently to it anyway. So we'll move that on, Amy. So what? Again, if we talk about how it is, and we spoke about it a little bit, what would be the biggest difference you see geographically between the game out here in the US, and again we'll talk about the women's game here in the US and in Europe, Ireland, Europe, where in general. But
I think in the US the women's game has had a lot
more longevity,
more longevity, and it's had kind of a longer time of being a professional top level game, where in Europe, you look at England, women's soccer was illegal in England from 1921 up until 1971. And in Ireland, our top level league in the country is still amateur. And not only is it amateur, but it's, our soccer association doesn't really care for it. I think they got their kind of schedule for the season 2 days before the season was meant to, kick off. Like, it was just our pre-season was meant to kick off. So we're still a lot behind. But I mean, now I would give the US another 10 years before England starts really knocking on the door. France, Spain, Italy. It's just a kind of a matter of time before the US. Unfortunately, because I support the US myself, but you look at England, like, the players and the academies, even at underage they have, and the setup, like, it's it's going to be a matter of time before they win a World Cup or they start competing. But I think for England, and the biggest thing for the US is a mindset. And listening to like Phil Neville, during the She Believes Cup, it was like, we're just happy to be, to come third, or we're happy to compete with the US. Where the US, if they go a goal behind, like, that's not good enough. Or if the US lose a match, that's not, it's just like
the mentality is very different.
But again, that's kind of changing, and there's a lot of questions being put on Phil Neville now, where like people aren't happy with that.
The expectations should be higher, right? So
but in the US, I mean, like, soccer in the US is like a different sport, kind of the setup. A lot of it is focused on high school and college, and then if you don't play soccer in college, you can't really become a professional athlete. Where in Europe, you play with your club team, and if you're good enough, you'll get scouted and you'll go to, a professional academy, and then if you're good enough there, you'll get signed with the first team, And even, Jamie Vardy was 25 or something when he made his, when he signed with Leicester. So you kind of have more of a chance. But like in America, it's if you don't do well in high school, or if you don't play in college, you can't be drafted, and then that's it. So it's very different. And I don't really know if I kind of agree with it in a way, but
going back to your earlier point about like professional soccer in England, my earliest memory for like the last 15 years is the FA Cup final. That's like when it comes to Maybank Holiday, the FA Cup final, women's on that. That's the only game that I actually saw of women's football, women's soccer.
Yeah.
Well, now, I mean, you look at BT Sport and they're showing the Women's League, at least one match a week, which is
I think that's probably the biggest contributing factor is that it's starting to become popular on TV a lot more.
Yeah.
You're seeing games being scheduled on BT Sport, BBC, rather than what it had been kind of around about 2015 and earlier. It was just that FA Cup game.
That streams on the internet.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I watch, you know what I mean? Getting viruses on my laptop trying to watch the USA and Ireland women's match.
Yeah.
We're now, even like in Ireland, our kind of version of BBC shows the World Cup and shows, USA games and England games.
Yeah.
Where, that's unheard of 10 years ago.
No.
But it's still, it's obviously channels aren't going to show it if people aren't watching it, but people don't know about the game if they're not on the TV. So it's it's up to media outlets to just, to show it and invest in it, and hopefully then that will bring crowds into the game, because I mean the attendances are getting there. I think the average attendance was about 4,000 in the women's league in England.
Yeah, I know it's definitely growing. I know Chelsea ladies have had a few games this past season until it got put on hold. They played at Stamford Bridge, obviously the men's stadium, and they nearly filled it out, which was awesome. So again, you can even on social media you can see the game growing in England and Europe, Ireland. You can see it growing. Growing year by year, just through various social media outlets.
And they're actually talking about the soccer where, before it was, here's Alex Morgan.
Yeah.
And Alex Morgan is the only soccer player you'd ever hear of.
What's your view, Amy, on... So, I'm a big fan of Alex Scott. For those who don't know, Alex Scott she used to play for Arsenal and England, and now she went into soccer punditry, became big, but now not only is she doing that, she's like on everything, like dancing on ice, everything. I think she's awesome. But do you think female players like that or icons? I know there's already a few out here in the US, but Alex Scott's probably the first one in England to go down that route. Do you think that's, and if you go away from soccer, Sam Quek, who was the hockey player, is doing a similar thing as well. Do you think that's only going to help the women's game grow, seeing more female athletes as icons? Like, you're used to seeing loads of female athlete icons in like track and field or like other sport or tennis, Serena Williams, prime example. But in soccer, you think that's going to help?
Yeah, I mean, because, in Ireland, there's a campaign for women's sport in general, and the slogan is, if you can't see it, you can't be it.
Yeah.
So, again, I never, not that I was going to be good enough, but I never aspired to play soccer professionally or at a high level because I didn't think it was there. Yeah. And even as a coach now, to be honest, I don't know how, in 10 years' time or 20 years' time, I can make a career as a coach, because there's not that many female coaches.
Yeah.
In the NWSL, the league in America, there's only one female coach.
Wow.
So it's I don't know. Yeah. So it would help me, don't mind the kids, or, younger players, to see female soccer players in higher roles, and it's going to benefit kind of females and males, because again, if young boys are seeing females in higher positions, it's when they grow up, they're going to see girls and females as equals. So
they're going to be a lot more respectful.
Yeah, that's it. It's going to help everyone, but it must be daunting, because I know Alex Scott only put up on Twitter a few weeks ago that the amount of kind of hate and trash she gets.
Yeah, I think that's crazy.
For giving opinions, and it's a male pundit could give the same point she is, but it's because she's a female.
Yeah,
that's why she's making that point. Where if it was a male, it wouldn't be anything to do with his gender. So it's going to have to take, females now to take the brunt of everything to kind of make a path for, females in the future and stuff to get roles and higher positions.
Unfortunately, like you said about Alex Scott there, and again, like I think the stuff she says is amazing. Like she's on point with everything. The hate she gets is unfortunately a minority of people, but it's blown up, so it looks like it's a lot more. I think there's always, unfortunately, there's always going to be those people, but the hope is that it minimises, and like I said, it's there's fair play to Alex Scott and other female icons that are just able to brush that to one side and stick to their goals. I think that's great. All right, Amy. So where would you like to see the women's game go over the next 5-10 years, worldwide in general? Like, if there's things that you'd like to see change, whether it be in the pro game, the youth game, whatever. Yeah.
I would, there's like a huge debate now at the moment, like equal pay. And, like that's big at the moment.
Yeah.
And to be honest, you can't expect, the WSL in England, compared to the Premier League, it's the Premier League, or the players get the money because of TV rights, advertising rights, and again the women's league, they get 4,000 fans at a match, so it's kind of it's unrealistic to say they should be equally paid. But if you look at the US women's national team, they get more supporters at matches. They've won more. They bring more money in than the men. But if you look at, I think it was the 2014 World Cup, the men earned $9 million for getting knocked out of the last 16, or the women earned $2 million for winning the 2015 World Cup. So it's like you were just like females getting a chance, an equal.
Do you think that's a domino effect though? So, for example, and again, like obviously you talk about the women, the US national team getting $2 million as opposed to the men. Do you think that's a domino effect though of the fact that maybe the women's I know I was a big advocate and watcher of the Women's World Cup, but there's no doubt that the Men's World Cup in general had a lot more viewers worldwide.
Yeah.
So do you think the fact that they had less pay was a domino effect of, because the pay scale on a bigger, or the viewing scale on the globally was much bigger in the men's game?
I think I was looking at it a few months ago, and I think the total amount of prize money in the men's World Cup is 400 million.
Yeah.
And I think 30 million for the women.
Yeah.
And obviously, like I love a men's World Cup. You can't beat it. It's like the highlight of the year.
The men's World Cup is probably I think the biggest sporting event. There is every 4 years. I know the Super Bowl out here is massive.
The Olympics are probably up there.
I know the World Cup final.
Yeah.
Compared to the Super Bowl out here, globally, I think the World Cup final, in terms of viewing rates, and we're talking about the men's World Cup final here compared to the Super Bowl, I think the viewing rates is probably 50 times more than what the Super Bowl gets. But obviously again that's globally as opposed to just the US. But
and that's it. And you look at it like a lot of men. How long is the World Cup? The men's World Cup and men's professional leagues have been around, where a lot of women's professional leagues have only been around for the last 20, 30 years. Like the first Women's World Cup was in 1991, so it's obviously going to take time for it to, to grow and to be at the level of the men's game. But the thing with pay is there's women kind of leaving the game because they can't afford to play. Like it's a big thing now, even with, affording childcare. Like I think there was like 3 players I've read recently retired because they couldn't afford to look after their child and play soccer.
And
that
needs to change.
And like talking to I was talking to a professional soccer player, and she was saying in America, the rookies coming in were only earning $16,000 a year. And a lot of the time they couldn't afford food, so the US, the international players would have to buy them food.
Yeah.
Because if you play internationally in America, the US soccer pays their wages, not the club. So they would pay, for food and stuff. And like, if you play professionally in any sport, you shouldn't go without food, or you should be able to live comfortably in doing that, because they train the same as the men, they make the same sacrifices. So it's like, at least give them a livable wage.
I agree. See, he's an interesting, I guess, visual, and people might not pick up on it. And I think we agree that we all agree that the men's game, especially in Europe, I think the men's do get paid more for valid reasons. Maybe out in the US as well, but I think we agree that the women's their wages need to improve dramatically, and they definitely deserve that. But I think, even on social media, I'm going to use the English game here. I follow a lot of soccer players on Instagram and various, and obviously right now a lot of people are doing stuff from home, so you can actually see where people live, kind of. I'll take Jill Scott, who's probably been England's centre midfield player for the last decade, at least or the last 10 years. And if you compare her to a men's player, she should be the likes of Steven Gerrard, Paul Scholes, what she's done for the women's game.
Yeah.
However, if you look at where she lives, you can tell she lives in a very small house, nice house, but you've only got to take a look at where she's doing her online stuff in her garden, and her garden, or her yard as we call it out here, is probably no bigger than the living room I'm in now. And then you go see a professional football player. I'll take anyone, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, for example, or Jesse Lingard, who's done lots of stuff online. Who's not one of England's biggest players, but yet is in an absolute mansion. He
hasn't done anything for his team.
Hasn't done so, and I think that's where, for me, the comparison there is crazy. You've got one of the most decorated women's soccer players for England, and then a professional English soccer player, but an average one on the men's game, living in this absolute mansion, which is probably a week's wages to live. And I think that's where. And hey, don't get me wrong. I know these men's players do a lot for charities, and they do give a lot back. So we're not bringing into doubt the character of the players, but I think in terms of a pay scale, that shows you just there how different it is from a very decorated women's player to a not so decorated men's player. But yet still the wages is. I wouldn't even want to know the numbers, but I'm sure it's crazy.
It's hard to compare them because I think we can all agree that men, the male soccer players get paid way too much. Like, somebody who plays soccer shouldn't be getting paid £350,000 a week. Like, nobody playing soccer should earn that.
No.
So it's hard to compare them, because the men's game is just, the wages, and they're just getting bigger and bigger as the years kind of go on.
Yeah.
But at least just make it that girls and women can play soccer as a career.
Yeah.
Like, give girls the option that they can do that, and not even play, like, coach. Like, if I was to return to Ireland or whatever, I don't know what jobs. I couldn't think of a job I could get here as a coach.
Yeah, no, it's very, like you said, it's out here in the US. The game is so much bigger on a youth scale to be able to make a living off. And I think there's whoever watches NBC Sports, you've got Rebecca Lowe, the host, and then you've got Robbie Earle and Robbie Mustoe, who are ex-Premier League footballers, good Premier League footballers, not top players, but Premier League football players. And Robbie Mustoe did an interview once, and he said, quite frankly, if he lived in England, he wouldn't be involved in soccer anymore, because, quite frankly, he wasn't a big enough player in England to become a full-time pundit. Hence why he came out here. But I think that shows you that he's a great pundit. And I think that shows you the difference between the cultures and why so many coaches come out, not just to the US, but other countries abroad, to obviously work in the game full time. And I think still, unfortunately, this is where it has to change in England right now. More, and this is probably where it's better in the women's game. in the men's game, unless you're an ex-pro at the top level, it's very difficult to make it in the game. As opposed to if you could be a fantastic coach, but it can be a very difficult pathway. But again, lots of changes in the coaching and playing world all over. But Amy, what we'll do is we'll go on to the home straight now to finish this off. So I think we've talked a lot about the women's game, and I think on that question there, I think we all agree that the women and the women's game, pay-wise, it should go up. I think, again, should it be at the same as the men's game yet? I think it's up for debate. I think there's so many factors that come into it, but I think we all agree they should earn a little bit more. But what would be your, I guess, before we do a little quick fire round, what would be your closing statements, Amy, on any advice that you give to any young soccer players or young coaches, female coaches and female soccer players, in the game of soccer?
I think I would say it's something that kind of, I'm struggling with now, and as a player, just because I didn't see that, I could be a professional soccer player, just because I can't see that I could coach at an extremely high level doesn't mean I should just give up on it. And just because it is a bit harder for female players doesn't mean you can't do it. And unfortunately, a lot of female players get turned away because it is a bit hard. And at the end of the day, if you're good enough, if you work hard enough, you can do it. I didn't see myself as a coach, but I worked hard at it. I studied at it. I was kind of pig-headed about it, and thankfully I'm where I am today. And
I agree.
Anybody can do that. If you have a good attitude, if you work hard, you can, as cliche as it sounds, you can kind of be whatever you want to be, really.
Yeah.
But you have to work hard in it, and you have to have the right attitude.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's a good life lesson, I think, in any walk of life. All right, Amy. Well, I know many of your fans, which you have many of them, had a few questions, and I'll throw some more in there as well. So one was, I guess you've already said when you started playing soccer, you spoke about that as a young kid and what made you want to play, and obviously your drive and ability to want to achieve. But another question we'll do, because obviously you've answered that one, is what is the first thing Coach Amy wants to do when you get back to the US?
Go to Cape Well and just lie on the grass.
Lie on the grass, yeah.
Hug the gates of Cape Well.
Yes, I like that. I like that.
Get back on the field.
Fantastic. I know there was another question about, are we going to do these live? We're figuring out a way to do it live, but as you can see, we ramble on a little bit sometimes. So it's nice to be able to cut out some of the bits where people might be bored of. So, but I guess if we do we might do a quick fire interview at some point. Another one obviously everyone wants to know when you're coming back, and obviously we spoke about that, is when we get going again.
ASAP.
ASAP. And it's an interesting one. What are you doing to keep in soccer shape during this current time at home?
I'm not eating Easter eggs, by the way. Yes, I am. But well, before all this, I was in the gym. I was in a routine, going strong, and then unfortunately everything was shut down. So I kind of actually have them here. I purchased a few resistant bands. I got, and I invested in a little heart rate monitor to strap onto my chest. But yeah, just kind of, doing anything I can, like bottles of water, put them in a bag, put the bag on my back, squat, push-ups.
Very creative.
Yeah.
I like that. All right.
Doing anything.
Who is your favourite soccer player, male and female?
Well, growing up male, obviously, because, didn't know female soccer players existed. Cristiano Ronaldo was like a god. My bedroom was just all Ronaldo. Posters, pictures, everything.
Makes me feel old. Makes me feel old, Amy, because when I was growing up, it was the Brazilian Ronaldo. Probably Joel, just about as well.
And then female soccer player would be Ashton Harris, goalie for the US Women's National Team and Orlando Pride.
Fantastic. All right. Favorite team? Who do you support? or teams?
Manchester United.
Yeah.
For a Premier League team.
Yeah.
Well, used to be big into Manchester United, but since 2013, it's been slowly fading away. And then, support Real Madrid, Juventus, any team Ronaldo's on, and US women's national team. Really,
Yeah.
that's.
Do you have a favorite domestic women's team?
Either
US or English?
Oh, in the US, Orlando Pride. Yeah.
Nice.
Fair play.
Just a Harris influence.
Yeah. Favorite. All right, we'll do a couple more. Favorite coaching topic. Like if you could pick a session that you have to focus on, your go-to session. Steve's just called you up and said, Amy, I've got a U14 age group here. I need you to run a session with them. The coach is sick. You got 5 minutes to get there. What are you going to do with them?
You got one penny, one ball.
Yeah.
That sounds like a normal training session.
Yeah.
Well, if I say something to do with shooting, my players will absolutely kill me because I probably don't do that enough.
Yeah.
Probably something possession based.
Yeah.
Playing in tight areas.
Yeah.
Just giving players situations where, game related situations. And it's kind of something I've learned and been studying over the winter that I haven't been doing enough is making game situations, presenting them in training sessions.
Yeah.
Cutting out the side of the field where, because I think everything is a bit unrealistic sometimes. So you have 1v1s and it's a typical 1v1. Player in front of you passes you the ball and he takes them on. But realistically, how many times in a game, in a match, do you get the ball and the defender is directly in front of you? So it's definitely my players will be seeing a lot more game related situations replicated in training.
I like that. All right, and I know what you're going to answer here. That's why I'm going to ask you this question.
Go on.
For a young soccer player who's just starting, age 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, those real young ages, what's the most important thing that they should care about playing at that age? What, like?
FUN.
Fun. You got it. FUN. Fun.
That's it.
And dribbling.
If you're not enjoying soccer, there's no point really. Yeah. But just the basics. Don't worry about if you're young. Don't worry about transitions and playing in the final third and playing
set plays.
Dribbling, passing against the wall.
Yeah.
Getting a ball, dribbling around an open area. Just the basics and enjoying it. That's
the one thing. I know we cut on time. It's the one thing that, and again, people are more than welcome to challenge me on it. That if just watching youth sessions across all sports, soccer is the best sport to be able to allow young kids, ages 3, 4, and 5, to just have freedom and fun and just play. Okay, there's no doubt about that. And again, not everyone is open to that because they feel there has to be structure, but there really doesn't at that age. And I think it's a huge thing. I know Coach Mark spoke about that as well. All right.
That's it, and it suits every type of, if it's a kid that just likes running, then, you see those kids in rec, they just run after the crowd and they're happy out and they're smiling.
Yeah.
You have kids that are just pushing, they don't even care about the ball, they're just pushing everyone out of the way, or there's kids that genuinely, like soccer and they have the ball and they're just running past everyone. It's kind of, soccer there's a place for it in it for everyone. So it's just let the kids.
Even the daisy pickers?
Play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even the daisy pickers?
Oh, well, that's it. There's a place for them too.
All right, guys. Well, look, Amy, it's been an absolute pleasure learning more about, I guess, your coaching well, playing well, how you were brought up in the game of soccer, and also talking about the women's game in general. I think, again, hopefully people found it very insightful and enjoy listening to it. I know myself as a director of coaching, it's a pleasure to have you in the program. And I know you're going to have a very bright career ahead of you in the men's and women's game of soccer as a coach. And Coach Amy will be back soon. I know there's a lot of coaches ready and eager to get going again. When the start date will be, I don't think anybody knows that yet, but we're doing whatever we can to keep people entertained and engaged. So, guys, we hope everyone and their families are well. We wish everyone a great Easter, which is coming up this Sunday. I think this should come out just before then, or at least we may release this on Sunday. And we will see everyone soon. Take care, everyone.
Happy Easter. Peace
Happy
out.
Easter, guys.